What is up, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Rocket Live. Thank you all so much for joining us here live right now. Thank you to everybody who will be watching the replay later on. And of course, all of you that will be listening to the audio version of this much later after that, because as everybody knows, I do my best to get the audio versions out, but I'm definitely ahead when it comes to the video side, considering we do the show every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I am so appreciative of everybody that hangs out and joins us on the live show, contributes, sends comments, tries to make us laugh, all those great things. Welcome everybody who's watching this on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook right now. Today, I am so excited because I have yet another Clubhouse friend of mine. And I'm really excited. As I say every week, I'm so excited, but I really am. I'm always excited to have such amazing guests on who are so willing to give their time and talk and hang out with us. So I am here with Mr. Drew Milden from the Drew versus the World podcast. Yes, I'm so happy to have you on, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, first let me get the branding out.
There
we go.
Got it branded.
Exactly, it was all about the branding. But first and foremost, thank you, Chris, for inviting me on your platform. I've been a fan of you since I met you. Your personalities and your enthusiasm is just tenacious, and I love it, man. I love it. So I'm glad to be on and ready to rock it out. And let's get to it.
Yeah, man, let's get to it. Let's rock it out. So as usual, as we go along here, because we are doing this live, if you're watching live and you'd like to ask some questions, throw some comments, whatever, make us laugh, I don't care, whatever you want to do, please send it in the comments below, and we will definitely bring it up on screen or announce it or address any questions that you have as we go along here. And with that, let's get started. So, Drew, tell us about the podcast, because actually, you know what? Before we even get into that, let me back this up a little bit, because I do want to set the stage just a little bit. So I, as I said in the intro here, I met Drew on Clubhouse. We've been running in the same group of awesome podcasters and people who are just so creative every morning on Clubhouse from 6:30 to 9 a.m. And that's the morning podcast chat with the Real Talk podcasting crew. And that's where I met Drew, and Drew's in there and he's talking about his podcast. And I just love his positivity and his passion for podcasting, but not just podcasting itself, but the people you bring on, that the interesting guests you have. I've been listening to shows, and man, you get such a great eclectic group of guests who are just really from all walks of life, sharing their different stories. And so I just wanted to set the stage for that. But yeah, so tell me about the podcast, how it got started. I personally know your mission, but I'd love for you to say it so everybody watching can get into your head and understand like the real mission of Drew versus the World.
First and foremost, thank you so much for listening and the positive vibes. So the whole podcast started as just me trying to be creative. So my day-to-day job, I'm a lot more technical. So I deal with the ones and the zeros of the world, and are very integral a part of that type A personality. But I wanted to do something creative, and I was like, what's the one thing that I can do that's creative, but also doesn't take me out of my element? I was like, podcasting is perfect, right? It's the perfect mesh between artistic and also the part of the type A, where I can learn new technology. I can be organized. I can talk to people that I usually would talk at the bar or something like that. So I sat down with a couple of my friends, and they're like local rappers. One of my friends, he's an audio engineer. One of my other friends, he's he deals with music and beats maker. And he was like, man, you can do. I can't do any of these things. I told him. He was like, man, you could do something. So I was like, I'm gonna do a podcast, but I have no idea. So we sat down and was thinking of names, and it was like, yeah, man, you're always very combative. It was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. When usually we are at a bar or something like that, and somebody has like a viewpoint that either A, I don't like, or B, that I'm trying to gain more info, I would just drill into that point over and over again. He was like, yeah, man, it's like you versus the world. I was like, what? He was like it's you versus the world. I was like, Drew versus the world. Perfect. So that stuck. And then the mission, now my mission towards the podcast is really just to talk to any and everyone, but people that are changing the world, because I believe everyone is changing the world in their own right. So I talk to them and I try to pull out those tidbits of information, try to understand how they're changing the world, even if it's just from, giving somebody a $5 coffee in the morning or something like that, because it's a ripple effect. So I wanted all my audience to understand and learn that these are people that are movers and shaker, and you can be one too.
Yeah, and I think that's just such a cool mission, and I so connect with that because the whole reason why I started getting into podcasting is, well, my first foray into podcasting was with my friend Victor, which we still do. We do our Galaxy Geeks podcast where we literally just talk about the things that we love. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
took the conversations we were having like behind the scenes and just said, well, let's just do it on mics. But then when I started this show in particular, I mean, this really just came out of like, hey, I just want to give a platform to people in my network so they can get exposed to other people in my network, and maybe, just maybe, they'll find business with each other, or somebody will hear and go, wow, that's really interesting. I'd like to talk to them or connect with them or whatever. And that's how it kind of started. And it's just evolved into like now, like having people like yourself on and the other people I've had. So whether you're a business owner or you want to be in business or you're just a creator or whatever it is, or I shouldn't say just a creator, but it's really, if you've got a story and you're working hard and you're doing it from a good place and trying to help others, like that's a
Mm-hmm.
story that I want people to hear. So that's why I really respect what you're doing, and I really connect to it, because I feel like that we just have this like very similar kind of like mission in our minds of really bringing these stories to light, because there's just so many amazing stories, man.
And so many amazing people. And to your point, that's, man, it's so humbling sometimes when people, I had one guest on and she talked about depression,
Right.
right? And somebody reached out to me and was like, yeah, I really couldn't put what I was feeling into words, and this helped me categorize what I have. I'm like, jeez. Like, I that's the type of change I'm trying to look into.
Right.
Just that's the type of people I'm trying to reach. People that don't know, but with the guest on, now have the insight, then can evolve, can grow, can build, can, become a better them. And that's what the whole Drew versus World platform's about, baby.
Yeah, I love it, man. I totally love it. And just to go back to like the name as well,
Mm-hmm.
and how that came about, I think that's so fitting for you, because I love that it's Drew versus the World podcast. And I also know too, so on top of like your mission, I also know that you're also very much like me in the sense of like you're a comic book fan, superhero, things like that. And so I also love that. I mean, even the headshot that we have that you gave me to use for the promo for the podcast is you doing the Superman, opening the shirt. And so I think that's also very emblematic of your your love and your interest in that world of geekdom, let's call it, and then your mission with like helping and spreading the word of all these amazing people.
Yeah, man, and it's funny. People, so you've probably been in the geek realm or the nerd realm a little bit longer than I have, but you know, it wasn't cool back in the day. People weren't they weren't they didn't care about what you they didn't care about the Flash. They
No,
didn't care about, Batman. They didn't care about, like, they're making movies, they're making shows about the Arrow. Who cared? Who wanted to be the Arrow? Nobody. Nobody.
nobody.
No, exactly. Now it's become so mainstream. It's almost like it's out of geekdom. You got to dive into it now. You got to think of like other like small characters that you really enjoy. Like, I really love I love the Spider-Man
Mhm.
like universe, but I have to dive into the Spider-Man universe. Like, I love Madam Web, and I love, the different Spider Verses. Like, I love Scarlet Spider. I love and this might be on brand to you, Punk Spider-Man. So it's like all these different things you have to dive into the geekdom now. So I honestly been loving the new like resurgence of it, though, because now it's mainstream. I also like the mainstream part of it because now I get to see my heroes that I've been looking up to this whole time
Yeah.
on the green screen, and on the silver screen. I've been loving it. Been
Yeah, it's
loving it.
amazing. Like I think back to like, especially when I was a little kid, and I'm playing with, my Star Wars figures, but
Mm-hmm.
everything else too, the Transformers, and like we had
Mm-hmm.
cartoons and stuff, but it wasn't like it is now, and it's pretty wild because it's like all these conversations we used to have as kids, being like, oh my god, it'd be so cool if like we saw this, and like they made a movie out of this, and they made a show out of this, and it felt so far fetched that that would ever happen. But here it is, man. I mean, it's like we're now on like overload, and I feel like they haven't even scratched the surface because once you start reading books and you get into this, like how vast like these universes are. Like you even just mentioned, like I mean, there's Marvel, and then you just said like the Spider Verse, like Spider
Mm-hmm.
Man, that universe. That's one character, and all the stuff wrapped around like a character. It's truly extraordinary. So it's like really, it's like all our dreams that we had as like little kids are like totally coming true.
And two things I recommend if you when you get a chance, and this really touches on probably a young boy niche, is what hero can beat the other hero, right? It's called
Oh yeah,
Superhero Beatdown and Death Battle. If you ever get a chance to watch those two YouTube series, it's amazing. It's like basically the exact same thing. Like if Hulk fought Wolverine, what would happen? If Dark Vader fought, I don't know, let's say Goku, what would happen?
right.
It's just those kind of like mashups that we always was thinking about, and like it's almost like before we knew what sports was, we had those characters that we would pin against each other and see who won
That's
just from
true.
the facts.
That's true, man. Before there was even fantasy sports, we used to have fantasy fights of who would win what battle. Yeah, if Hulk would fight like you said, like Wolverine. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and this was actually a few years back now. I can't remember, but I remember watching it and being like, wow, this is really cool. Somebody did Darth Vader versus Batman fan
Yes.
film on YouTube. And well, first of all, I was like, holy crap, this is like the production value on this is really good. But that was like that was totally out of like those conversations that we would have as kids, like, oh, what would happen if Batman ever fought Darth Vader? How would that go? Well, some fan made did it, and there it is. Answer
I
that
think that
question.
I think that was Superhero Beatdown, and they did one that probably has 1,000 views with uh, Ryu
Mhm.
versus the White Ranger, and Tommy Oliver. I forgot his real name in real life. Was actually in that fan made. And he actually was fighting because he's like an ex MMA fighter as well. He was actually in that superhero. I was like, what is happening? It was like the best of both worlds of my gaming prowess and my Power Ranger. I was like, I was in love. I could geek on this all day.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely stuff we could go down a whole road. We could have a whole podcast talking about this kind of stuff for sure.
Darth Vader doesn't have any Kamehameha blast, but will win any day against Goku. Ooh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Raphael throwing it down.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
I don't know about that one.
No, I don't know because that spirit bomb is something serious. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah, real quick, just want to say hello to Pedro, Meredith, and Raphael. All checking in on the live chat. Thank you for hanging with us. Thanks for dropping some comments and cheering us along here and sharing some insight as we go along. As we talk about who would win, Hulk versus Darth Vader, Hulk
Hmm.
versus or Doctor Doom versus Darth Vader would probably be a pretty good one, right?
That
You
would be a
like
good
that
one.
throwdown?
That would be a good one.
Force choke greater than Spirit Bomb.
Ooh, I don't know about
I,
that, man.
that's a good debate. That's a good debate.
See, Goku has blown up and has the power to blow up an entire planet, right?
Mhm.
What Darth Vader has the ability to choke maybe what 2 or 3 people. I'm just saying, there's just power differentials here. Surviving in space here without a mask. Goku, all he got to just is flip Darth Vader's mask off, and he's done in space. What are we talking about right now? What are we talking about here?
We're talking about some important facts right now. He
What are we talking?
survived being burned alive. Forget any blast of light. And there you go. He's dropping the mic. Raphael's dropping the mic on that one. Yeah, well, this is what happens during Galaxy of Geeks is when
Yeah.
we start doing these types of conversations. But this is another reason why I was excited to get you on because I know your podcast is great because you
Yes.
do talk about a lot of serious stuff there, which is awesome.
Mhm.
But it's good to have some fun. And I know this was a bit of your background, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, I at least want to talk a little bit about. I want to geek out with you a little bit.
Yeah, and and this is actually why probably I started a podcast is because sometimes I have very strong opinions,
Right.
and I love to voice them on
Yeah.
different topics. But
Well, it is called Drew versus the World.
exactly, and it's funny because that you say that because there was a point in time I really wanted to change the name. I'm like, it really. I think it made people feel combative when it came on. It was like, are you going to, roast me, or are you going to, are is it some negative connotation towards it? But when I really thought about it, I was like, okay, it's really not just me versus the world. It's actually you versus the world. How are you taking on the world to, make it a better place? And once I kind of mirrored it, the podcast in that bowl of realm, I was like, okay, I can move forward with this. And the graphic, man, I love the graphic. I can't lose the graphic, baby.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is you're neck deep in the branding on this now, man. That graphics great. Pops on his shirt. It's awesome.
That was
I love it though. I mean, I think it's really good. It's a great name, and I think it's really memorable. But
yeah.
like you said, I think it's very symbolic of. It's not like you being combative, but it is
Mm-hmm.
that aspect of like, no, it's you, and there's these real issues that are going on, which is like sometimes you feel like you are like versus the whole world on a certain issue
Yes.
or stance or whatever that is in particular. Like you were mentioned before, and I actually I did listen to that episode with Ash when
Yes.
she was talking about depression and all those, and that was a really great interview because I think that what I've seen as a very as a running theme on your interviews is that people seem to feel very comfortable talking to you and sort of telling it how it is, which is the way they should be. But in particular, that episode was really great because I felt like Ash, she was really just like, hey, she had a mission, she's got a message, and she shared it with you, but she's sharing it with everybody. Like, and that's a key thing is like, you're sort of a really good representation of the actual audience
Mm-hmm.
and you seem to be asking the questions and getting people to talk to you as if I was like, like, oh, I want to ask this question, and then like right away, like you're going in, you're asking that question. So I think that's a very cool underlying theme, whether you know it or not, with your episodes of how you're interviewing people and sort of how like you're asking these questions that like the audience would ask.
Yeah, I thank you so much for that. And that interview in particular was very close to my heart because I'm a big advocate for mental health.
Mhm.
I when I was younger, I had a lot of anger problems, and I actually had to see a therapist at a young age. So a lot of the times, it was kind of me trying to um, figure out what to call what I had, right? Because it wasn't just me getting angry at something; it's me blacking out
Mhm.
like with anger. So once I learned what it is and how to really um, put a name to it, it really helped me figure out how to deal with it and how to treat it. A lot of yoga, a lot of sitting down, a lot of going to therapy. And so that's why I'm an advocate for therapy. I think everybody should have a therapist. I don't care if you have a problem or you don't have a problem. Somebody to just chit chat with that's unpartisan is highly important to everyone. I don't care if you have to, use Talkspace or anything like that. You don't have to go in anybody's chair nowadays. You can literally do it from your phone. But that's why that interview was very important to me and I want to dig, and I have people and friends and family that have depression and they can't name what it was. They don't know what it was until they went to therapy. So when she spoke on her issues, I was like hyper focused on diving into it because I wanted to make sure that if somebody that I knew listened to it, that they would have the exact same feeling you had, was like, oh, I was going to ask that question, but now I have to answer to it, and it's just out there in the open. So that was, thank you so much. That was one of the ones that were like, it was like the heartstrings would pull that, the heartstrings would
Yeah.
pull that.
But that's one, yeah, it has to be in that sense because
Mm-hmm.
it's like you said, like somebody had listened to that and it really spoke with them. Like, it really
Mhm.
connected with them, and it was what they needed to hear because they had trouble, saying it themselves.
Yes.
And so I this is why I feel like, as a medium itself, podcasting is important. I mean, it's pretty much just radio, like what's being done on radio, but
Mhm.
done almost giving the power to anybody to say, "Hey, we can broadcast these messages. I could talk to you right now, and there's people listening to it, and then there's other people will listen to it. And what we're talking about may affect somebody. They may learn something. They may laugh at a lot of the things we were just saying about comic books and all that. But that's the beauty of this medium is that we can have these important conversations that not everybody's having with other people. And so,
Yes.
the ability to be able to do this, create it, put it out there, distribute it, and then reach an audience where that can make that connection, which is once again going back to your mission, fulfilling that
Yes.
mission of creating these stories that connects with somebody and then ultimately, helps them through their day or through their week or just that certain moment in time. It's very important stuff. And I think it's really great, whether it's entertaining or having like deep discussion interviews. I mean, that's it's part of the human connection as far as I'm concerned. It's the experience we all have together.
100%. So where do you think the next step is in podcasting? As
Podcasting from space? No.
ooh, hmm, that's not
I,
too far fetched, sir.
yeah, I mean, you know what? That's a great question because I do think about that quite a bit. What the next steps are, where it's going to go. I feel like things are being pushed. I think a
Mm.
app like Clubhouse is
Mhm.
interesting from the social aspect of things, and then of course, I think like Fireside Chat, the
Mhm.
Fireside app is doing some really interesting stuff as that's being developed and coming on. I've been doing my show now. I've done 6 shows on that app,
Wow.
and it's pretty it's fun, it's interesting. Obviously they're figuring a lot out from their tech
Mhm.
side, but it's getting a lot better. So I feel like that's great with the audience participation and the ability to share those things out like live and instantaneously. I think doing this sort of a medium where we're streaming and simulcasting,
Yeah.
it's and there's so many like of these different like I use StreamYard, like that's what we're on, but like, there's all these other ones like Riverside's out there. And of course,
Mhm.
OBS really well. You could do different things there, and Zoom lets you broadcast out. And I mean, there's just so many restreams. Another one that's what my
Mhm.
Victor from Galaxy, my co-host to Galaxy Geeks, he uses that. And so there's so many different things. So it's like it feels like we're on a path of like I think everything's gonna converge at some point.
Mhm.
Mhm. And kind of like how YouTube has made watching TV like no longer TV. Like YouTube is
Yes.
TV now, like that is TV. Like, yeah, you still have your big networks and stuff, but like it's just this convergence of all the mediums and making it like so curated to like your personalized experience. Like, Drew, this is what you listen to, this is what you watch, and that's what it is, and that's how you'll be able to, you know, and it's already there. I just think it's just going to get deeper and deeper into that. But I mean, it's hard to tell, right? I mean, I could say
Yeah.
something and then who knows what's going to drop in 90 days from now. I don't know. It's a really great question, man. How about yourself? I mean, where do you think things are going?
Fully immersive podcast.
Mm,
So when I say fully immersive, I'm talking like you are we're here talking and somebody is literally watching us and they're like almost VR-esque
mhm,
sitting next to us and a part of the conversation, right? So even if it's VR, even if it's just like a round table like King Arthur's court, like you can make it whatever you want to make it in a virtual reality sense.
mm,
So then there's a connection of voice and language, and there's people that can talk to each other from across the world, but it's like you're actually sitting down. So what the pandemic has really set to us is that two things: we could do things virtually, and secondly, we need each other. We need that personal connection. So VR would connect those two pain points, and the possibility of you know us pushing the medium to a whole different level. So it's a social virtual connection.
I like that. That's interesting. And I mean, I think the audience aspect of things is that key, that the
Mm-hmm.
interactiveness of all of it, which once again, I feel like it's there with some of the apps we were just
Yep.
talking about. And I think it's just like yeah, get a little bit more immersive on it.
Yes. Like,
Where there's a very thin veil between,
mm-hmm.
that connection.
Like even if you can like talk to each other and like hold hands and shake hands, like virtually, of course, but
Right.
like just to have that like interaction still.
Yeah, which I think is cool, and it makes it like from anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
People. Yeah, it's definitely an interest. We're probably not too far away from that.
Yeah, when the robots take and Terminator comes down,
Yep.
we'll be there.
So let's see, check it in real quick. We have Amanda Sharp checking in with saying, hi, hello, my friends. Hello, Amanda. She also wants to know where's the baby.
The baby.
That's
He's
right.
he's with his mama.
Yeah, so talk about that, man. So you're a new parent, right?
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I'm a new OG parent, so
new
I
parent.
have yeah. So I have a 4-year-old going on 5 June 4th,
Mhm.
and then I also have the new baby, my son. So my daughter's name is Andrea. My son's name is Grayson. He is just turned 8 months. So, needless to say, sleepless nights, obviously, and I see a couple of comments in the chat about I'm using D babysitting, but there's been a couple episodes where he has joined us. Uh, he has joined us on the podcast, and I was literally so against having that sound. I was like, if I heard that, what would I think? Uh, but to a lot of the the help of people of the podcasting community, they were like, you know what? It makes you feel human, right? It makes you feel like everybody's dealing with it right now.
It's life, man. It's life.
Exactly. And it's been great because he's a pandemic baby, basically, right? So he's a baby that was born in a pandemic. He just seen people with masks, so he's just seen faces without masks, other than me and my fiance's face. So it's been great, man. It's been great. It's good. It's better the second time around. Honestly, the first time around, I was like a chicken with my head cut off. I didn't know what I was doing when I was doing it. It was just like everything was like a learning moment. And I was a single father, and now I've met my fiance now, and now we're doing the whole like bio dad, stepmom, like co mingling and new baby type thing. So that's a whole paradigm within itself that we're all learning amongst each other. But I can't not say anything but that I love it. I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, both my kids are older now. I have a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old, two daughters. And I remember when we had our first daughter, I mean, we were really young, and talk about like, being equal parts terrified and excited, because it's like, this is great. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, like no idea whatsoever. And and I'm in my early 20s or mid 20s when we had our first daughter, and man, I had zero idea what I was doing, but somehow you always find a way, right? It's like you always find a way, and those are the calls to the parents, and like, uh, she's doing this. What am I supposed to do? Like,
Or late at night, just putting your hand under her nose, you'd be like, okay, she's breathing.
yeah, yeah. Like, you got, are you? What's
Okay.
going on? Like, I can swear, no, just she's fine. She's just sleeping. I'm like, oh, all those times you fall asleep and it's like you're rocking them and stuff like that. And you wake up, you're like, oh my god.
And another thing is, and I heard this in another room on Clubhouse actually, people prepare and they read the books and they read all these different types of catalogs and read websites and everything like that. And one thing somebody said was like, yeah, you read the book, but the baby didn't read the book that you read. So they don't know, they don't care anything that you just learned.
No,
It's
they don't care. They don't care at all. And it's even funnier because your first and your second like are so opposite. So it's like, and so you go into like your second like expecting like, oh, I've been through all this now. I feel good. I feel confident. Like I'm ready for anything. I've got this. And then the second one comes, and you're like, oh my god, you're nothing like the first one at all. Like in any way, there's no schedule. Try all the time. There's like nothing works. None of the same tactics work. And you're like, oh my god, I got to figure this all out all over again.
it's like a complete blank slate. There's no like completely like the graffiti that you made on the wall is
Yeah,
completely tagged over. It's like let's start from scratch,
yeah.
almost.
Yeah, it's truly amazing, and it's
Hmm.
also amazing too, like what our children teach us, like as they grow older, and it's amazing talking to my girls now, and like how much I learned from them, and like they're teaching me things like all the time about
Hmm.
everything. I feel like at this point, like everything from like just normal like life to like what's going on like social media,
Hmm.
but like we just have these like conversations now, and it's just like holy cow, like I never thought we'd be having these kinds of conversations that like is it just things that just happen as your kids grow up, but like I'm always learning stuff from my children. It's truly amazing what we pass back and forth from each other as we both grow together.
What would you say is the greatest lessons you've learned through parenting? Like, what
Mm.
is the biggest lessons you've learned?
I would love to say patience, but I feel like I've lost so much
Ooh, that touched my heart right there. It's like right, I'm right there with you.
I used to think I was a patient guy. Now I'm like, oh geez, I have like no patience. Like, so I mean, I think it's just the I think it's the biggest lesson I've learned is the ability to listen better,
Mm,
and talk like
mm,
like I'm not saying you've got to be best friends with your kids, because I do believe that like you're a parent, and like our job is to set our kids up for the best success they could possibly have, and give them all the tools and skills they need to be as successful as possible. But I do firmly believe that that it is that like ability to like really listen and just talk to them, because
mm,
they are, like you said it before. I mean, human beings, like we need to talk, and it's like you don't want to build so much of a wall that like I am parent and you are kid and that is it. Like
mhm,
you do have to like learn, and I learned it because like I said, I was a very young parent, and I did not know what I was doing, and I learned a lot of the stuff along the way of like what is impactful, what's meaningful, and like what really like resonates. And I think really like listening and talking to your kids is super important, and that is something I definitely learned along the way.
mhm.
I learned the importance of it and how much they need it. Like they do.
Yes.
They need to be talked to. They want you to ask the question. As much
Mhm,
as they're gonna be like, "Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you." Like there is a certain amount, like, but they do want you to kind of like, "Hey, what's going on? How are you?" Like because when you stop doing it, they notice it. Like, "Oh, well, you don't want to talk to me anymore. What are you mad at me?" And it's like, "No, wait, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't think you wanted me to talk to you." Well, no, not really, but yes, like
I wanted you to want to not I want you to want to talk to me.
yeah, exactly. Raphael checking in. What's patience? The song by
Man.
Guns N' Roses.
Oh man.
Yeah. How about yourself, man? What is something you feel like you've learned? I mean, I know your kids are still young, but
Yeah.
I feel like you've definitely. I mean, from where you were then to where you are now, I'm sure there's some things you've learned along the way as a parent.
Hmm. I know this is very like cliche, but when I had my daughter, it showed me what true love is, if that makes sense. It showed me what because before then, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is this is the rock show. We're rocking out here.
Yeah,
We're
man.
rocking out.
This
We're
is
rocking. This is rocking out.
yeah, man.
Rocking out.
Rock and roll,
Uh,
man. Rock and roll, man.
I was not the best guy when it came to holding down relationships and being the bouncing back and forth and things like that. And when I had my daughter, it was the moment that was the moment I felt like I was like, I did not know I could have this capacity to love something so quickly, so quickly, and how important it became to me instantaneously. So she gave me the capacity to love more. Honestly, she's the reason why I feel like I can have relationships with my um, parents and my relatives and friends and family members even closer to this day because it's like for for me now it's like I see you as not just a person. I see you as somebody who, again, can make mistakes, who was a baby, who was this little
Right.
cherub that I have in my face now. Like, okay, you might have had bumps and bruises along the way, like she's gonna have, but you're still this whole human being that was at the same point. So she made me think about people differently, made me love people differently, made me be more accepting of people's flaws,
Right.
right? Made me be more, gave me more patience, even though, the patience kind of wears thin, but still gave me more patience in understanding that, people may fail you, but that doesn't make them bad people. So that's what I would say. I learned, she gave me a whole capacity for love. I don't think I would even have my fiance if I didn't have my daughter right now, because she legitimately gave me that, that life lesson.
Really well said. Really well said. And I actually, my wife has told me that several times.
Yeah.
It's like, it is true. Like when it's like your kids are finally here, it's like everything instantaneously changes, and like your whole life is just, and like that happens, right? That capacity for like
Hmm.
love on a whole different level that you never even thought was capable, because you never really felt it to that
Hmm.
a level before. That all happens when you have kids, man. It really does. It makes a big difference in your life.
Yeah, and it's I won't say everybody needs to have kids, but everybody needs that, know that type of love, because the world would be much a better place if people understood that love that that we feel at that moment, because it's just like, it's eye opening, man. It's eye opening, and I just couldn't, wish for anything close to as good as that made me feel. It's just amazing. But yeah.
Yeah. Nah, I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
I am with you 100%. It really is a life-changing thing that happens, because you literally go from basically being selfish, I mean,
Very, yes.
that's what happens. It's like, oh, I just need to take care of myself. Like, to like, oh my God, this child needs like everything, like needs
Everything.
all my attention, needs everything that I can give, because it can't do anything on its own without my help. And that's it. And it's like, that's it. You're invested.
Yep.
That's it. You've got me.
Yeah, I don't know what it has to be, some chemical reaction in your brain or something, probably taken from when we were apes, that is like, hey, don't eat this baby. But now it's like now it's like into the love category. But it's just like, it's like switches just go off. It's just like, okay, this is like, I have to protect this thing
Yeah.
for forever.
Some
Yeah.
some instincts really kick
Hmm.
in. This is awesome, man. This has been such a great conversation. I love this. This has been a lot of fun. I want to make sure that for anybody who's joining us live right now and jumping on as we begin to wind down this conversation, I just want to bring it back a little bit to the start, which is talking about the podcast
Yes.
again, because I do feel like that you do have such a great variety of guests on, and I just want to kind of understand a little bit too, like your process of, how how do you select guests, man? How do you get people to come on the show? Are you reaching out? Are people reaching out to you at this point? Like, what does your process look like for getting people on to share their stories?
So, with Clubhouse, it became pretty easy, as as I kind of got into different rooms and people reached out. So it's a combination of both. So people have been reaching out to me because they want to be on the platform and get their voice across.
Mhm.
But the most important thing I do is I actually reach out to people, and I literally will stay on Instagram, because that's where my audience is, that's where my life is, that's where my lifeblood is. And I just go and I scroll and I'm like, oh, I like that person, I like what they're doing. And I would say insta stalk them for maybe 2 or 3 weeks and just see, okay, they have a lot of positive things, or they have a lot of informational things. And I'm like, hey, I'll just shoot them a DM
Right.
or shoot them an email straight, and just say, hey, I like what you're doing. So, for instance, if somebody has a podcast, I'll listen to their podcast. If somebody has like inspirational videos, I'll listen to their inspirational videos. And I reach out to them and say, hey, I like what you're doing. We'll love you, have you on. This is the value set I would love for you to share, and this is the value set I can give to you. This is the audience I can give to you. And I honestly been having like a 95% people actually accepting the invitation. So that's been super beneficial for me. So I used to do it in person, but the pandemic actually was a good part of my life. It wasn't a good part of other people's life, but it was a good part of my life as far as pivoting
Right.
my podcast because I had to go virtual. So now I can touch people from the UK, from Australia. I had a couple people on from Africa. I have a couple people that not in my time my even my time zone that I've been able to speak to as well, just with doing it virtual as well. So that's kind of my process is reaching to them in the DMs, sliding to the DMs, send them emails, but making sure I do my due diligence of knowing who they are. That's important. Know who you are going to have on your podcast because I don't like to do the pre phone call. I like to get to know that person on air. But 95% of the time, I've done my due diligence so much, it's like I kind of know them already through social media, Facebook, and all that stuff like that. And that's the interesting part of social media is that you can basically follow somebody's life and know who they are without actually sitting down with them. So that's my strategy of getting people on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can at least get to know the best parts of their life because
Exactly.
some people just pick the greatest hits to
Yes, that's what it
put
is.
on social media. But you get at least a sneak peek as to like what they're about and what they're doing. And I agree, do your due diligence, and because make sure that the person that you want to have on your show is actually the person they say they are. You don't want any phonies coming on and you know messing it all up for you.
Yeah, I haven't had phonies on yet, but I've had some interesting conversations, to say
I'm
the
sure.
least.
I am sure you have. I'm sure you have. So I think that was really good advice. Talking about doing your due diligence. Before we split, is there anything? Because I know, listen, I mean, podcasting, man, has really, really exploded over this last year and a half. I mean, listen, I started, two new shows since I started doing Galaxy
Mm-hmm.
during this time, and I know for many others, like you're saying, like yourself, like your games got definitely stepped up, and your level and your frequency and all that has gone up. So with a lot of people who have started some newer podcasts or are still sort of dabbling or thinking about it or just really getting their dipping their toe into the water, what sort of advice do you think you could give anybody out there who's just starting their podcasting journey, or if they're looking to level up their game a little bit?
Can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead. Fine.
Okay, okay. Just fucking do it, right? Just fucking do it. Like, and not just, when I say just fucking do it, I mean literally just my first episode, we recorded on two iPhones on a what you call it on somebody's couch.
That's it.
And the phones were on voice memo. That's it. It wasn't good iPhones. It was like iPhone 4 or something like that. It was shitty iPhones. So I would say for a new podcaster to get your feet wet, just, you know, anything that you're thinking, just voice record it. Use your, the devices in your hand, just voice record it. Start listening to yourself. Start listening to the things that, that you really are interested in. If you're, you have like a thread of like, okay, I'm, every time I voice record, I'm really talking about nature walks. Like, maybe to start a podcast about nature walks, and you can pull that thread.
Yeah.
Or if you have a interest in comics, like, hey, okay, all these things I'm talking about comics. So I would start recording your voice and get the practice in because the reps are highly important because you want to go onto your platform and be, I wouldn't say seasoned, but you want to be able to communicate what you want to communicate very easily. And I think doing that starts out the flow of creativity moving and grooving. And also it gets yourself out your own way because if you want to use those voice memos, you can use them as original audio, Or you can just say like, hey, I'm going to compound this into like a reel. Like, here's my first episode of all these different chunks of information. So so that's my advice. Just fucking do it. Start off simple, um, and just record your voice. You don't even have to put it out there. Just start recording your voice, because everything else is on YouTube. You can find everything else on YouTube. But what people will not tell you is what you want to talk about. So you have to learn that through doing. So
Yeah, I mean, as awesome advice. I mean, really, it doesn't get much simpler than that. Is, don't ask for permission from anybody. Just fucking do it. Just get out there, start creating. Like you said, you don't even have to really put it out there right away. Just do it, just to get the frequency. Just get used to, holding it and talking it, and using the device a little bit. I mean, and it can be as simple as, we all walk around with probably the most powerful computer in the world in our pockets, and you might as well use it for something else other than social media and posting stuff. I mean, it's a content. This is a content creator tool right here, and everything is here to start with. So I absolutely, I love what you just said. I couldn't agree with it more.
Thank you.
Excellent. So with that being said, my friend, I think we've reached the end of the interview. Although, like I say, I feel like we could go on forever and ever and ever.
Chris, we didn't even get to talk about. I jumped. I was almost a skydiving instructor. I was training for the UFC at one point. I've coached track. I have so much. I think this is part two. I'm calling it right now. This is a part two.
There's 100% going to be a part two. I feel like everybody I do an interview with, there's always going to be a part two because of stuff like that. Exactly. So you definitely, we're definitely coming back on, and we'll be talking about all that. We'll have you back on for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. It's just, this is what this is. This is about conversations, getting to know people. So I love it, man. This was awesome. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And so once again, and I know I've been flashing it up here, but if anybody's listening to this, what's the best way to get a hold of you if they would like to, get on the Drew versus the World podcast?
Just like you see there, drewversustheworld.com, or hit me up on the DMs at Instagram at Drew versus the World podcast. And I literally will take mostly anybody, mostly anybody. And if you have an interesting story, if you have a passion project that you're having, please reach out, because I will love to feature you. I would love to talk to you about it. And if any way I can help, I'm down for the cause.
Awesome, man. I love that so much. So yeah, definitely make sure if you would like to be on Drew's podcast, do all the things he said. Plus, I have links in the comments section of this post, as well as the show notes for the audio version. So you'll be able to access any of Drew's links anytime. And make sure you listen to Drew versus the World podcast, which you could get anywhere, right? Any streaming platform, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can get it. It's pretty readily available. Or you can definitely go to, as I've been putting up here the entire time, drewversustheworld.com to listen to episodes as well, if you don't subscribe to any. But I mean, at this point, it's like, you can, if you listen to podcasts, you're definitely listening to a service, and Drew's podcast is most certainly on there.
Yeah, 100%. If you can't find me, please DM me and tell me you can't find me. And then I'm going to ask you, how did you DM me?
That's the best question. Wait, how did you actually DM me if you can't find the pod? So confused. So many questions.
But again, Chris, thank you so much for giving me the chance to be on your platform. It was amazing. I'm, again, a huge fan. A huge fan of you on and off Clubhouse, and you're doing amazing things. Your business prowess, your podcasts, your multiple podcasts are great, and it's an honor, bro. It's an honor.
Oh, man, the honor is all mine. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for saying all that. That's very appreciated, man. I appreciate that. Keep saying it. I appreciate it. But yeah.
Okay, I got more.
Checks in the mail, bro.
Cash.
I'm gonna hit your buy me a coffee link.
Yeah.
$500. Coffee.
Oh man.
Amazing stuff. Well, yes. Well, thanks again, my friend. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you who are watching and listening to this right now. Thank you all so much for joining us live and participating today. Really appreciate that. And of course, thank you to everybody who will watch the replay of this and listen to the audio version later on. And we will be back next Tuesday, as we do every single week at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with another great interview and another amazing guest here on Rocket Live. And thank you guys all so much. You going to play us out, buddy?
Hit the whammy bar.
Whammy bar. Okay, I'll just...
Nothing.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much. And we will see you next week on another episode of Rocket Live. And remember, always be yourself, always be authentic, and always remember to rock it. Yeah.